Planned Parenthood has been in the crosshairs of anti-abortion activists for decades. The Providence Road Clinic in Columbia, Missouri is at issue thanks to House Bill 1055, which was passed in May 2007 by the Missouri General Assembly and signed into law by Governor Matt Blunt. The Columbia Clinic, along with clinics in St. Louis and Kansas City, are the only abortion providers in the state. The law requires clinics to be licensed as ambulatory surgical centers, which could require that structural changes be made to the Columbia Clinic. But a preliminary injunction by a federal judge has left all sides unsure about what will happen next.
So now this is depending on what regulations DHS says we have to meet, because if we're grandfathered in, we won't have to do anything to the hallway. If we're not grandfathered in, we'd have to widen the hallway, widen the doorways. We'd have to make the rooms bigger, so raise the ceiling. So both, we'd have to come in this way and expand out that way.
Okay. For this part right here, would this also have to be made larger?
Yes.
Okay. In your opinion, is this sized room right now appropriate to perform
Yes,
abortions?
it's more than appropriate.
How
yes.
come?
We have plenty of room in here. We usually just have 2 medical assistants and the doctor, and then the patient. I mean, we have a medical assistant that stands up here with the patient. We have a medical assistant back there, and then the doctor. There's plenty of room.
Okay. Where are the proponents of this law that's now being challenged, as you know, say that changing the parameters, for example, this room will help women's safety? How come they're wrong?
Because changing the size of the room will do nothing to improve women's safety. I mean, abortion's one of the safest medical procedures, and the size of the room is not going to change the outcomes.
And it's not going to change the way we do the procedure, the way they recover. Nothing's going to change. Just the atmosphere is going to change, and that's all.
I reject the notion that asking abortion providers to put the safety of their patients first somehow or another jeopardizes a woman's right to abortion.
Is this about safety, or is this about curtailing abortion services?
This bill itself is about safety for women.
It's definitely about stopping abortions. If it was about women's health, I mean, the way they set it up is if you have more than 5, I think they said, abortions that take place a month, well, why is the magic number 5? If they're really worried about women's health, which it's clear that they're not, because this actually sets women's health back, if they're really worried about women's health, then what they would do is set it at, not put the arbitrary number 5.
Well, if it's justifiable to have these regulations for somebody that's going to go in and have their ankle or their toe operated on, it ought to be justifiable for somebody that's going to have a surgical procedure or a pharmaceutical procedure for an abortion. I don't know how we justify saying we want safe environments for one procedure and not for another procedure.
The complication rate with abortions is less than several other surgeries that take place in the state every day. Vasectomies, LASIK surgery, none of those facilities are required to become ambulatory surgical centers, and I think that this is specifically meant to drive abortions back into the back alley, even though Roe versus Wade is still the law of the land.
This is the recovery room where they come after their procedure. They're in here about 20 minutes. Well, we have a registered nurse in here. She takes their vitals, takes their blood pressure, gives them some ergonovine to reduce the swelling in their uterus. They have the heating pad. They're given a little 7-Up, to help their stomach. Basically, that's it. It's probably 20 minutes they're back here.
What would have to change in this room?
This room, it's you'd have to have 4 recovery beds per surgery room, and they have to be 3 feet apart. And how many women are back here at a time usually?
Probably 2.
Yeah, 2 to 3. So
2 to 3 at the most.
You'd have to have 8 beds back here, but only 2 or 3 people would be back here. So this room would have to definitely be expanded. We're hopeful that through this whole, through the lawsuit, and that the judge has asked DHSS to specifically say what set of standards that they're going to require of us, that we're hoping that that they'll adhere to their own rules. That they said you can be grandfathered in if you're not a new clinic, and we are not a new clinic, and we've been providing services since before that law was in effect. There would still be a few small changes that we would have to make, but nothing that would shut down the clinic.
We probably see 700 to 800 people in here a month, and that's including supplies, cells, and actual patients. So you take that to the percentage of 600 or 700
Overall,
a year.
for the for the affiliate, it's 94% are prevention services and only 6% are abortion services, and that would include this clinic and then the Overland Park, Kansas facility. So I don't know, we have the numbers completely broken out, but in general, that's pretty much Planned Parenthood across the country. Between 6 and 7% are abortion services, and the other 93, 94, 95% are all about prevention, and that's what we are in the business of doing.
For 34 years, we've had abortion on demand ever since the Roe v. Wade and Doe versus Bolton decisions. And for 34 years, this whole process has not been regulated. So was it a new idea just in the last year or two? No. This has been an ongoing concern because there have been numerous cases, hundreds nationwide, of women who have been damaged by abortionists and abortion procedures. Now, Planned Parenthood is constantly talking about the carpet and the size of the hallways and the doorways, etc. That's not the point. The point is the oversight that can now take place. There was no legal basis for the state to become involved at all in the oversight because they were not regulated. If someone suffers physical damage like a perforated uterus, an incomplete abortion, for whatever reason, and she were to call me as a representative before this bill was passed and say, why doesn't the state do something? All I could say is the state doesn't have any authority to do anything. So there is no way to track what has been happening. And, the first step to making sure that we have safe regulations and procedures is knowledge, information. And we don't have any way of getting that now.